Hi guys, myself Pranav from PCCO is Geeks for Geeks student chapter, and in this video we are going to take a look on Git and GitHub, and we're going to do a project using Git, and we'll show you the commands, the basic commands that we use in GitHub for source control management. So let's go, guys. Also, I have added some timestamps in the video below, so if you want to skip any sections, feel free to do it. But I'll suggest you to watch the complete video till the end. So let's start by learning the basics of Git and GitHub. What is Git? Git is basically a version control system that is used to track and manage code by creating repositories. So what is a repository, you ask? A repository is basically a storage where you can store your files and folders, and so that the repository can provide version control and history management. This is extremely helpful in teams where you are working with a lot of other developers, so that you can track your files, you can manage your files, and in case something bad happens, you can roll back to previous files so that your work is not wasted. So moving on to GitHub. GitHub is a web platform that provides hosting for Git repositories. By providing the hosting platform for these repositories, it's a great place for developers to collaborate. It's a great place for you to share your code onto the web platform so that others can see your code, others can collaborate into your code, and share your codes further on. So let's dive deeper into Git and GitHub with a project. So the first step is to download Git on your system. For that, we'll go to git-scm/download. So yeah, this will take us to this website. Here you can see there are three types of download files available based on your operating system. Timestamps are added below. You can just skip to the operating system that you have. Yeah, so let's start with Windows. Firstly, for downloading Git for Windows, we'll just click on the Windows link. It will take us to this page. So we'll just click on 64-bit Git for Windows setup, and we'll download the standalone installer. So once the standalone installer is downloaded, we'll just run this installer. So as you can see, the Git installer is now downloaded. I'll just click on it to open it. We'll go to the setup process. The setup process is quite simple. We'll just click on install, and the Git will start installing, and we'll just wait for it to install. Okay, so as you can see, the Git installer is now installed. We can just click on finish to complete the installation process for Windows. So for Linux, the process is pretty much same. We are going to go again on git-scm.com/downloads, and it will get us onto this page in which we have Linux and Unix installed. We'll just click on this link, and it will take us to this documentation, and we can pretty much follow this installation to install Git for Linux. I'll just do that. So here's my terminal. I'll just copy these commands into this terminal. First, we'll start with the for this, we'll just do apt-get install git. Do remember, if this doesn't work, you can just use sudo with it. So we'll do sudo apt-get install git. It will ask for your user password, and then it will start installing. As we can see, the installed, and we can just check the version to confirm that. So I'll just do git dash dash version, and as we can see, there's version 2.34.1. Okay, so let's move on to the project part. I have created a new folder named Git video, and I'll just create a basic file index.html into this to demonstrate how Git and GitHub works for files. Okay, so I just created a index.html. I'll add some template code into this. Let's say welcome to PCCOEs. It's for it's chapter. Okay. I'll just run this once to check if everything is working fine. Mm, yeah. So as we can see, it's working fine, and just save this file. Okay. So the file is created, and we'll initiate the process of creating a Git repository by by going onto the terminal. To open terminal onto your VS Code, you can just go to terminal and then new terminal. If you are not using VS Code, you can just simply go to command prompt. You can open a new command prompt and you can locate to the location of the file. So I'll just go here, and you can also use it from here if installed correctly. So as we can see, the Git is also accessible from command prompt. As for the video, I'll just continue with the Visual Studio Code as it's more convenient. So let's start by creating a Git repository. To create a Git repository, we'll use the git init command. The git init command initializes the GitHub repository so that we can further track our files. So to initialize the GitHub repository, I'll just type git and then init, where init means initialization. Okay, so as we can see in the output, the Git is initialized. So it initialized an empty repository. What that means is that it is currently tracking no files. So as we can see, we want to add the index.html file for tracking. So first of all, we'll just check the status of the Git repository to see if it is tracking any files or not. To do that, I'll use git status command. So I'll just type git status, and as we can see, there are no commits yet on this branch, and there is one untracked files. So what is the meaning of untracked files? Untracked files are those files that are not managed by Git. So doesn't matter if you delete this, if you do some changes, it will not reflect in your Git repository unless you track those files. So as we want to track this file for the future references, I'll just add this file into the Git repository. To do that, I'll use git add command. So I'll do git add and then the file name. So git add and index.html. So I can use index.html, or else if you want to add multiple file at once, you can just use a single dot. The single dot represents all files. So I'll use git on add index.html, and as we can see, there is no output for this. So this means that the file is successfully added and we can move on. So now moving on, we'll check the status once again to check if the git is now tracking the index.html, and we can see that the file is now tracked. So once the file is tracked, we can also make some other changes if we want. Like, let's say I'll add one more h1 and I'll say hello world. Okay. So this changes that I just made is now tracked by the Git repository. As you can see, first the file was in green color. This is a helpful extension that is provided by Visual Studio, but I'll not dive deeper into this video. So as we can see, using Git status, that the file is now modified, but the changes are not staged. So to commit all those changes, we'll do once again git add and then dot. Now we can check the git status and the file is now updated. So once the file is updated and you are happy with your work, we can just commit the changes so that we can push the code to Git repository. To commit the changes, we'll just use the git commit command. So for that, I'll type git commit, then followed by -m, where git commit needs a message. So this message is useful for your peers or others or even you in the future to remember what you did into this commit. So I'll just type in first commit, as this is my first commit for the project, and I don't want to mention any specific thing in this commit. So yeah, you can see that one file is changed. There are 12 insertions very clearly because there are 12 lines of code here. So once the file is committed, we can again check the status, and as we can see, there are nothing to change or nothing to commit on this branch, and we can see the working tree is clean. So now our files are now tracked and we can move by pushing this to GitHub repository. So we are now on github.com, which is where we are going to host our repositories, and I'll just create a new repository here by clicking on new. So this will initiate a new repository, and I'll just type in your repository name, Git tutorial. You can add the description later on, but I'm just going to add the description right now. So this is a demo repository. You can keep it public, or if you don't want to share your files with anyone else, you can just keep it private so that it remains up to you. I'll keep everything as it is and the repository as public, and I'll just create this repository. So this will take a couple of seconds, and then we'll land onto the GitHub repository. So this is the URL using which you can access this repository further on in the future. So the next step is to connect your GitHub with your Git repository. For that, I'll just copy this link here. This link is a address to this Git repository hosted on GitHub, so that we can come back to this GitHub repository whenever needed. So I'll just copy this. So we are now in Visual Studio Code, and the only thing remains is to push the Git to the Git repository. To do that, we'll use the git push command. We'll just type git push followed by a modifier say upstream, and we'll just paste the link that we copied right now, followed by the branch name, which is going to be master. And then we'll just hit enter. It takes a few seconds, and as we can see, the code is now getting pushed, and the code is now hosted on GitHub. We can also verify that by going onto the GitHub repository, and we'll just reload this site to check. And as we can see that the GitHub repository has the new code now pushed onto this. Uh, you can also add a README here for more detailed documentation, but that's the gist of it. And I hope you like this video. Do comment if you have any doubts. I'll link all the required documents and cheat sheet in the description. And have a great day, guys. Bye.